It's Thursday, May 23rd, and we are docked in Skagway. Shortly, we will be getting off the ship to go on our excursion, then take a walking tour of historic Skagway. It is currently 39 degrees and lightly raining, but Alaska is beautiful. The Disney Wonder is also in port, with another cruise ship. We got off our White Pass Railroad excursion and started walking west on 2nd Street. On the left was the White Pass and Yukon Route building. This structure was built in 1898, and in 1969, railroad operations moved to a new building 2 doors east. The Red Onion Saloon is at the corner of 3rd and Broadway. It was built in 1898 as a saloon, dance hall, and bordello. It was moved to the current location in 1914 and was relocated backwards, with the rear of the structure on Broadway. The Arctic Brotherhood Hall is on the left, with the distinctive letters A and B. Over 8,800 driftwood sticks are nailed to the front wall. Coming up on the left is the Golden North Hotel, which houses many retail stores. It was moved to its present location in 1908, at which time the 3rd story and dome were added. At the corner of 3rd and Broadway is the Mascot Block, which consists of 3 separate business buildings. The Mascot Saloon, on the corner, dates back to 1898. On the left is another historic building. The Pantheon has served multiple purposes over the years. Originally built as a plain board and batten hotel in 1897, it later became a hardware store and then a saloon. Charles O. Walker, the same architect who designed the rustic architecture of the Arctic Brotherhood Hall, added a rustic storefront featuring driftwood logs as columns and cobblestone sections of wall. Straight ahead is the former St. James Hotel, now a hardware store warehouse. On the north side of 4th Avenue between Broadway and Spring, World War II barracks can be seen. At one time, more than 80 of these barracks were scattered around town. Fewer than 10 remain. Walking over to 5th Avenue, you will find the Moore Homestead National Park. The Moore Homestead is part of the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park. The homestead was established by Captain William Moore and his son Ben in 1887, 10 years before the Klondike Gold Rush. In a newspaper interview in 1901, Ben Moore predicted that his log cabin would someday probably grow into a museum that tourists will be glad to visit. Hermsey's Curios is a jewelry store located at 5th Avenue and Broadway. It has a rich history of offering authentic, handmade items by local craftspeople. The totem poles are the craftsmanship of native clans such as the Tlingit and Haida. They almost always feature an eagle or raven because all tribe members are descendants of one of them. The poles are not religious, but instead were carved and painted with only 3 colors to honor the dead, to tell a story, or to represent a family's crest. The fascinating 2-story green building across the street, with the corner tower, was built by Dennis Corrington in 1975 and finished in 1977. It houses a gift shop, museum of Eskimo art, and a residence. The red building ahead is the Eagles Hall. The hall is composed of 2 Gold Rush hotels, the Mondamin Hotel, which was moved here in 1916, and the Pacific Hotel, which was added to the rear in 1920. Each summer, the curtain rises on the popular Days of 98 show, Alaska's longest-running theater production. The show dates back to 1923.
I think we can fit you in a corset. Yeah? Good job, honey. You did a little
The Pullen House formerly was Alaska's most famous hotel. It was a popular stopping place for interior residents and tourists for more than 50 years. Harriet Ma Pullen ran it most of that time until her death in 1947. The hotel operated for another decade before being abandoned. All that remains is the chimney. McCabe College, originally built as a school in 1899 by the Methodist Church, closed in 1901 and the building was sold to the federal government for the United States Courthouse. The building served as a U.S. courthouse and jail until 1956, when it was purchased by the city of Skagway. In 2000, the city of Skagway celebrated its centennial and the completion of a new addition to the century-old McCabe College building, which has served as City Hall and Skagway Museum since 1961. Skagway's unique history as a vital transportation corridor and gateway to interior Alaska and the Yukon is portrayed in the Skagway Museum's permanent collection of artifacts, photographs, and historical records of the past century exhibited in the venerable McCabe College building. Along 7th Avenue between Broadway and State Street is the Gutfeld Residence, historic Skagway Inn. Built using materials from an 1897 to 1898 building, Max Gutfeld built this residence in 1918. In the 1920s, the rear wing was added by moving the vacant Rossigan's Warehouse, 1901, from 4th Avenue and Main Street to the present site. This street is the site of Skagway's once thriving red light district. This plantation-style White House was built in 1902 and was originally the home of Lee Guthrie, saloon keeper and civic official. After Guthrie left town, the house was converted into a small hotel. The Army used it for a small hospital during World War II. The hostelry operated through the 1977 season. A fire that year damaged the facility. The new owners have restored it as a bed and breakfast. The greenhouse with the beautiful circular porch on our right is the Nye House. It dates back to the gold rush and was originally a log cabin. A series of improvements were made in 1898 and 1901, turning an ugly duck into a beautiful display of architecture. The house was reputed to be a gambling casino before becoming the house of longtime resident Charlie Nye, an executive at the local power company. The pale yellow two-story house with a tower is the Case Mulvihill House. This Victorian residence, that dates back to 1904, was built for Mr. W. H. Case, a partner in a popular local photography store. 10 years later, William J. Mulvihill bought the place and moved in with his family. He was the chief dispatcher for the White Pass and Yukon Railroad. Local folklore says he kept a telegraph key in his house, so he could still work at home. He died in 1949 and was buried in the local Gold Rush Cemetery. The city restored the house in 1980, where it housed the Skagway Chamber of Commerce. It is currently a private residence. The site of the old Blanchard Garden was, during its time, perhaps the most famous garden in Alaska. In gold rush days, people had little time to care for flowers or vegetables. But just a decade later, Skagway had become well known as the Garden City of Alaska. The slogan remained until World War II. Many gardens thrived, Blanchard's being the best. Known among them, visitors to Skagway were amazed to find large and beautiful dahlias, sweet peas, begonias, geraniums, pansies, and nasturtiums. That era ended, however, with the coming of World War II. With the Army occupying much of Skagway, many gardens were abandoned or graveled over.
Interesting.
This is the retired snow plow used by the White Pass and Yukon Railroad, called Rotary Snow Plow No. 1. The plow spins its huge blades and throws snow to the side. It was built in 1898 and cleared the tracks until 1964. It was restored in 1995 and put on display here. The Princess Sophia departed Skagway, Alaska, on October 23, 1918. It sank on October 25, 1918, with estimates of the death toll ranging up to 367. Nobody on board survived, save one pet dog who swam to shore. The ship was one of 4 coastal liners operated by the Canadian Pacific Railway, all named for princesses. The Skagway Centennial Statue is a monument commemorating the role of Alaska's native Tlingit guides in the Klondike Gold Rush. The statue was erected in 1997 to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of discovering gold in the region.